it's reducing. And of course, the buying side, especially, it's now at a flat 18 kwacha.
18 kwacha.
Yeah, which is quite impressive.
So if it goes back to 17, it can even go back to as low as...
we expect it even to reach 10.
Yeah, that would be...
as projected,
good
as projected.
If you ask me.
Wow.
But yeah, like you were saying, a stable currency is important for us
exactly
to remain afloat. And part of the reasons why this currency has been at this rate from the previously 20 to 22 is owing to the fact that the government had stopped servicing its debt while it is negotiating with debtors under various commitments. So that had given a bit of relief to the local economy because the money was not being externalized to service the debt.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of relief, but we don't know how the government at which stage they are at the moment in terms of renegotiating these debt issues, because as you already know, Zambia is highly indebted, and that debt burden is really affecting the economic outlook.
Yeah, it's on everybody's shoulders. Even the people on the grassroots can even feel the impact. So we hope to see how best the debt can be negotiated with stakeholders like the IMF and everything that they're putting in place just to make sure the economy is actually revised to normality. So we're expecting much from this administration, really, Mr. Soko.
Yeah, for you. And just now we're going to take a short break. I will be back on the other side with Camnet Health. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Camnet breakfast. Like we area communicated, we are going to go straight into our interesting segment on Camnet Health Talk with the doc, so that we get understanding various matters on health, Mr. Chishimba.
Yeah, as you may be aware, Dr. Cynthia Lewis, who started yesterday the topic on epilepsy. By the way, Dr. Cynthia Lewis, like we introduced in yesterday, she's a pediatric registrar at UTH. Yeah, and she started a very interesting topic on epilepsy. And you know, epilepsy is surrounded with a number of myths. So she talked about how someone can have the causes, really, and also the fact that epilepsy can be actually treated. And so today, we are just going to have her to continue on that topic so that she can elaborate more on the myths surrounding the epilepsy. So let's just take a look at this segment as Dr. Cynthia Lewis comes in.
Hello everyone. We're back again today to discuss 10 myths about epilepsy. My name is Dr. Cynthia Lewis. I am a pediatric registrar based at the University Teaching Children's Hospital, currently attached to the Department of Neurology. I am also a very proud member of the Medical Women's Association, MWAS. So, the first myth is everyone with a seizure an epileptic patient? And based on the discussions and talks we've had with my colleague and myself the previous day, we have established that seizures are not equated to epilepsy. Where seizures are provoked, epilepsy is an unprovoked recurrent seizure. And then myth number 2, everyone with epilepsy is either bewitched or possessed by a demon, and we know that this is not true. We have established that this is a medical condition that is very much diagnosable and treatable. The third myth is that if you have epilepsy, you cannot get a job. And we also know that this is not true because we have established that there's different medications out there that could help with the immediate management and the long-term management of seizures in patients with epilepsy. The fourth myth is that epilepsy is a mental illness. A lot of studies have been done, and people with epilepsy tend to live normal lives with no psychological or cognitive disturbances at all. So the myth that epilepsy equates to mental illness is very much untrue. The next myth is that if you have epilepsy, you cannot get pregnant. We are all aware that pregnancy is a high-risk state in our women. But a woman who decides to get pregnant and is epileptic is no different. The only thing would be that she would need to have more regular antenatal care visits and also more visits with her neurologist, who would make sure that her seizures are kept in check. The next myth is that if a patient is fitting, or if you find a child fitting, you need to restrain this patient. We also know that that is not true. Seizures are usually self-aborting, and a true epileptic seizure will not stop based on restraint alone. So it is better to keep the person in a safe environment and not to restrain them. The other myth is that for a person who's convulsing, you need to put something in their mouth. And this is a very, very dangerous myth, as this could lead to damage of the teeth or of the jaw. The next myth is that seizures are painful. Based on a study that was done in the UK, 5,000 epileptic patients were interviewed, and of the 5,000, only 46 complained of pain during a seizure. The rest of them reported some pain after a seizure, which was mainly due to a fall or injury during the seizure. So we can conclude that for the most part, seizures are not painful. The next myth is that epilepsy has no treatment. Based on our previous discussion yesterday, we discussed that there's a lot of treatment options available to treat seizures based on your seizure type. These treatments are aimed at reducing the amount of seizures and quite possibly for complete cessation of seizures based on how you take your medication and as long as you are consistent. So those were the myths around epilepsy that we needed to debunk today. Aside from medication, there are other treatment options available in the developed world. For example, there is something called epilepsy surgery, in which doctors will identify the part of the brain that's causing these epileptic discharges and resect or remove it. Another treatment option that's currently being investigated at the Children's Hospital is the use of something called a ketogenic diet. This ketogenic diet is basically a low carbohydrate and high fat diet. In conjunction with your neurologist, your dietitian, and your nutritionist, it's possible to control epilepsy with diet and medication. A seizure does not equate to epilepsy. We have covered the different causes of seizures, and we have also covered what epilepsy is, which is unprovoked recurrent seizures. We've also touched on the diagnosis of epilepsy, which is a full history of the patient, a birth history, and also a family history. We have also concluded that the gold standard for diagnosis of epilepsy is an EEG, which measures the electric current in your brain. The take-home message is that people living with epilepsy are able to live long, successful, and happy lives as long as they're adherent to treatment and come for regular checkups at our facilities. So, dear viewers, the take-home points are this. Epilepsy is not a mental illness, and it is not as a result of possession by evil demons or spirits. It is a medical condition that is easy to diagnose and treat. Aside from the treatment options that we earlier talked about, that is the medicines, there's also various other treatment options that are available in high-resource countries. For example, there is something called epilepsy surgery, in which the doctors will identify the part of the brain that causes these epileptic fits and resect or remove that part of the brain. However, that is only available in developed world currently. And this is the conclusion of today's show. Thank you so much for watching.
Welcome back. In case you are just joining us, we are here on the community day, on the breakfast show on your screen, which always comes on Wednesday for Politics Desk. And we've been having Dr. Lewis, Cynthia, taking us through the myths surrounding the epilepsy. And one of the things that she actually alluded to is the fact that it's treatable, which actually, maybe, have you had an experience at a patient who's suffering from it?
I've seen that among some people I know, yes. But I think this was a very informative piece by Dr. Lewis, because if you ask me, in these compounds, in these communities, people take it as if it's a mental illness or it's a demon, like she said. But mental, like epilepsy, does not amount to all such things, like someone has a mental condition or they have demons, because people end up saying that someone has been bewitched when they're having a seizure,
especially in rural areas.
So those myths, and you know, she unpacked a lot of myths surrounding what people do to ensure that they mitigate the seizure. But all those things, she said, those are myths and those are not right procedures to undertake. And I think this informative piece, in case you just missed, you can catch it on our Facebook page and just get to listen to yourself about this disease, because at the end of the day, you have to also know how you can help someone with this condition. And you can only do that with information. That's why they say information is power, because at the end of the day, what people know is that when someone is having a seizure, it's probably niva ku bantu bana balowa kuli bamfuiti, you know, those are the things that we get in these communities. Mr. Chimba.
It's true.
But
and this information is actually backed by statistics. If you had the number of experiments that they've done in Europe, to be specific, about 5,000 were questioned if this if one is undergoing an operation, if it's painful. But over 5,000, only 40 people complain that it is painful, which is actually the minimum number compared to that. So these information are well researched, they are medically proven, you know, so it's not a demon possession in whichever terms. You know, they've made studies and they've come to establish that, okay, there's a problem with this and it can be medically treated. So if one is experiencing that, it should be encouraged. It can be one of the family member or a friend can be encouraged actually to undergo medical attention in that front.
Well, just now we are going to zoom in one of the stories, Mr. Shimba. Which one is that?
Okay, so we'll start with the same one for the connection fees, which were apparently this was a leaked information. We may recall there was a memorandum that was circulating on social media, and the response from people was quite, there was a lot of anxiety with people just to take the look of the fees from 1.7 thousand to somewhere 6,995 for the post.
Roughly 7,000.
Yeah, so we're talking about 7,000. So that information was not really meant for media consumption or for people to see initially. But so what we did is, as Camnet News Crew, we did call the corporation manager, was for ZESCO, Dr. John Kunda, who actually said, okay, the information is true, but again, it's not an increase. So basically, they're saying it's a normalization of fees. That's what they're calling it.
We can go into that clip, then we talk on the other side. You two are going to add to that story so that we get to the conversation going.
Yeah,
stay tuned.
Zambia has in the past few months seen an increment in essential commodities such as fuel following the removal of fuel subsidies, which citizens say has had a negative impact on them amidst the high cost of living. While citizens are still anticipating the promised review of electricity tariffs in March 2022 to make them more cost-reflective, Zambia's power utility company ZESCO has made a new announcement which has not sat well with most Zambian citizens. In a statement that has been circulating on social media, the power utility company has made new changes on electricity connection fees from 1,700 kwacha to 6,995 kwacha. Meter separation fees have also been changed from 750 kwacha to 6,000 kwacha. In an interview with Camnet News, ZESCO Senior Corporate Affairs Manager Dr. John Kunda has described the statement as leaked, but says it is true.
The use of cost-reflective, connection fees will continue, meaning that when we come to your property and assess your needs, so the technical specifications that will be assessed and priced, that is the amount that is going to reflect on the quotation, and that is what the client is going to pay. We are no longer going to deflate the figure, because previously we would conduct a technical assessment, bring the figures into our system, and deflate the figure to something lower.
Dr. Kunda says the move has been necessitated by the backlog of debt that the power utility company has from previous subsidies.
That ZESCO has to charge a lower amount and then go and borrow on behalf of the customers. I don't think that is tenable, neither is it sustainable. So we've made a decision because, as you can see now, there is a backlog of about 66,000. And the reason is none. You cannot be subsidizing a service and then go and borrow from the capital market. So the inflow of materials as a result has been constrained. If you're investing in a house worth 200,000 kwacha, and we are asking you to pay 7,000 kwacha for a connection, what percentage is that to the cost of value of your property? So we need to value this property, electricity as a service.
The ZESCO Senior Corporate Affairs Manager has further called for the responsible use of electricity, stating that doing so will result in the commodity being more affordable in the long run. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
There you have it, an interesting story there by Zipporah Mshala. And one thing that brings me to this story is the fact that we've been there before. This pressure is coming back to the government because it's an issue of subsidies.
Exactly.
However, people were accustomed to that subsidy, and the changing overnight appears to be a tall order for the consumers. Mr. Chishimba, who has plans to build a house, that's the connection fee should be.
Yes.
He should be anticipating to pay to ZESCO, especially that his house is in far-flung areas and not in the periphery of Lusaka. So those are problems that come with that pronouncement by ZESCO. But I want to bring something to your attention. My analysis and observation is that this measure has been undertaken by ZESCO as to also limit also new applicants or new connections, because that other figure which was being subsidized was very affordable for everyone to connect to the national electricity grid.
Yeah.
And they realized that over time. And there was a point in time in this country when, during Rupia Banda's tenure, Zambia's fourth Republican president, it was the connection fees were reduced further, and that meant that everyone could afford, because the connection fees were pegged to less than 100 kwacha. So you can imagine everyone was able to connect, and this is, we say, during the election period, and it was a theme to say we are providing access to electricity to every household, and that actually triggered things because everyone was able to connect, and we ended up choking the system because more people were being connected to the system. Wow, generation capacity had remained constant. So that choked the national grid, and we had the incidence of load shedding because how you have more people connected beyond the capacity, the generation capacity.
Indeed.
Yes, and now we have also upscaled in terms of the generation capacity as a country, but even this capacity is being choked because Zambia's population is on an increase.
Yeah, it's
and
growing.
in the wake of industrialization, there are a lot of industries that are equally connecting to this grid, and we are still choking the system.
Yeah.
So, do you still need that subsidy and allow everyone to connect to the system? ZESCO had to do that measure to ensure that they no longer provide that subsidy because they have realized that they haven't been able to service the people, like the backlog of over 60,000 issues unresolved. That tells you something to say people have paid for a service,
exactly.
but ZESCO is yet to provide this service to them. And we have seen that that has also contributed to the issue of theft because people want to be connected to electricity by all means. So others end up stealing connection cables to already connected houses, so that those people who also want to connect to the system can say, I have my own cable.
Yeah.
Can you connect me to China? We've seen a lot of theft. You've done those stories, Mr. Chimba, on theft of electricity cables. So all those issues come in because...
Talking of issues that will be affected by this pronouncement, you can take note also the issue of charcoal burning. You know, people will now resort to other survival means in terms of how do we cook, how do we make everything that needs electricity. So we are on an agenda of ending climate change as a country by the year 2030. But seeing this, I'm not trying to conclude, but I feel people who now, those who can't manage connecting on this high price, will now resort to go the charcoal way.
But obviously, Mr. Shimi, we have to talk about the energy mix when we're talking about the energy sector. We have to bring in all these issues to do with solar energy. We have to deal with other source of energy, because if we depend on hydro generation, we are going to continue to have this challenge, because climate change also affects how hydro power is generated.
Do you think this is a point we need the private sector to chip in with other?
Moving towards that, because we are here to get to government pronouncement, because to see how those pronouncements be actualized, because we are talking about moving to cost reflective tariffs once the cost of service study is done. Once that is done, we hope that they will be able to be in a position where they are going to make sure that the price of electricity is cost effective. And that means that even the private sector can participate, because they will be making a profit. Because at the moment, ZESCO buys power from independent producers at very exorbitant prices and supply it to the consumers at a subsidized price.
Right, yeah.
So, and that is not sustainable.
It's just a service, not a profit making.
Yes, so that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So, but if we have those cost-reflective tariffs on the other side, it means that the private sector will be able to get into the industry and compete with ZESCO and have their own clientele base, provide the electricity and the service. But that also depends on the ability of consumers to cope, and that will also depend on the buying power. If the buying power is going to be improving, well, it will be a good measure for consumers. But as things stand, the consumers are tightly strained, and those new landlords who are hoping to be connected to the electricity grid are going to pay that amount, and that's a tall order. But again, among the conditions that we are having as a country implementing an IMF package, we have to also look at how the delivery of subsidies is being done to avoid unsustainable spending mechanisms on the part of the government. Because, for instance, that backlog, it means the government has to find money to service those 66 connections to be done.
That's a good one. So the next story we are reviewing, Mr. Soko, has to do with Boma Lusambo's wife. So you might be aware, Mr. Lusambo actually denied allegation in terms of against his wife, Nancy Lusambo, by the Anti-Corruption Commission, that she is in possession of properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime. We've heard these stories, especially to the opposition side.
Yes.
Is it a targeted clientele now for the SEC? So those are things that we are seeing the political scene, Mr. Soko. What do you make of that?
Well, based on what others have said, Mr. Shimba, is that usually there's no smoke without fire. And talking about government-based corruption fight, it's a difficult and complicated scenario because at the end of the day, they cannot persecute the Democratic Party. They have never been in government, and they have never handled.
So does that justify why mostly are from there?
So because most of the issues border on abuse of authority.
The funds.
Yes. So and those are pertaining to the most probably according to what we have been privy to by the SEC is that they are privy to the people who have served in government before. Okay. And you know, with the corruption fight in Zambia previously has been that usually when the ministers are in office, they were not usually prosecuted. So you'd be in a situation where sometimes we've seen pronouncement from heads of states way back to say, before getting to my ministers, you have to ask me first. So that's an indictment to say, don't prosecute my ministers. Don't prosecute my ministers. So that in its own sometimes tended to affect the law enforcement agencies because at the end of the day, these ministers were in office and they have authorities and they can also issue instructions. The head of state would also issue instructions. But we want to see a different SEC altogether, Mr. Jishimba, where even the current crop of ministers, while they are still in government, let them be investigated so that we don't wait up to probably when the new Dawn administration is out of office. That's when we see the SEC, the Drug Enforcement Commission, the FIC, all these agencies working towards to say, we are going to investigate ABCD. But at the moment, while they are still serving, if you are suspecting issues, they have to handle matters now and not wait for when someone is out of office.
Yeah, so Mr. Lusamba actually challenged SEC to prove the allegation by providing title deeds.
He says he wants to provide, he's just challenging them. Say,
how
are they going to get hold of the title deeds? Okay, we play that clip then.
Yeah, let's just
we'll
see
be talking on the other side.
Sure.
With exactly 32 days after the Anti-Corruption Commission arrested and charged former Lusaka Province Minister Boma Lusambo with 4 counts of being in possession of properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime and 2 counts of concealment of properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime, the commission is on it again, and this time it has gone for the former minister's wife, Nancy Lusambo.
The Anti-Corruption Commission has arrested and charged the wife to former Lusaka Province Minister, Mr. Bowman Lusambo, for being in possession of properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime worth $378,000 US. Mrs. Lusambo, 37, of Chamba Valley in Lusaka, has been charged with 4 counts of possession of property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime, contrary to Section 71, subsection 1 of the Forfeiture of Crimes Act number 19 of 2010. Details in the 4 counts are that on date unknown, but between 1st May 2015 and 31st December 2015 at Chongwe District of Lusaka Province of the Republic of Zambia.
However, the former minister has denied the allegations labeled against his partner and has challenged the commission to provide evidence of title deeds linking his wife to the said properties.
Has no property in her name in Silverest Gardens. You know, in Zambia, if the ownership of the property is a title deed. So we wait and see where the Anti-Corruption Commission are gonna get that title deed to show to the world that my wife owns properties in the Silverest Gardens.
But when asked if he owns properties in the said area, Mr. Lusambo could not deny but says he has been a member of parliament for 5 years and that the allowances paid to him in the 5 years are enough to allow him buy properties.
A lot of money from parliament. The money which we get from parliament just as sitting allowance, 5 years, it's more than plus minus 5 million kwacha. And the money which they are talking about is the money which is not even there. as Bowman, I've been paying properties in Silverest Gardens. Those the Silverest Garden management, they came to Parliament to advertise their properties. Northgate Gardens, they came to Parliament to advertise their properties.
And with regards to the status of his wife, Mr. Lusambo says she has been released and is home having some time to herself.
Yeah, she's at home. She's at home. She's enjoying in Shima and Impwa. You know, we are from Mpongwe. We enjoy in Shima and Impwa and dry fish. So she's at home. She's in a jovial mood because she's just wondering at Mr. Kainde Ichirema, this is how you do politics. I can assure you that me, I'm bulldozer and I will remain bulldozer.
Prudence Jota reporting for Camnet TV News.
Almost 7 years after an alleged shooting incident occurred at the Lusaka's High Court ground that left a United Party for National Development sympathizer, Peter Maseni, nearly disfigured, former Zambia Police Copperbelt Province Deputy Commissioner Bothwell Namuswa, accused of causing grievous harm to the said 39-year-old complainant of Lusaka's Kanyama compound, made his first court appearance before the Lusaka's Magistrate Court Tuesday morning. In 2021, in December, the police announced that they had arrested and charged Mr. Namuswa. This came almost 7 years down the line when the alleged incident had occurred. The accused, who appeared before Lusaka Magistrate Sheila Mweni for explanation of the charge, has been slapped with one count of causing grievous harm with intent to disfigure or disable, contrary to Section 224, subsection A of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia. The accused is alleged to have committed the offense on the 15th of December 2016, when Maseni was at the court premises for a court hearing. The former Deputy Police Commissioner is expected to appear before court on the 24th of February 2022 for mention awaiting certificate of committal from the Director of Public Prosecutions to have his case referred to the High Court for trial proceedings. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Well, there you have it. In case you're just joining us, you are watching the Camnet Breakfast Wednesday edition with me, Patrick Soko, and Alex Gishimba. We are talking matters pertaining to governance and politics. And in the studios this morning, we've been joined by our first guest, Mr. Abidon Yezi, a development consultant. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to this program.
Good morning, Patrick.
Yeah, we appreciate that you'd find time to be with us in the studio this morning.
It's a lovely place. It's my first time to enter into your studio.
Oh, wow.
Great. Yes.
Interesting. Probably it's the beginning of our engagements to come.
Yeah. You never know. We're always here to share knowledge and experiences. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have an interesting discussion that we want to also get your perspective on, especially bordering on the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, which has been increased to 25.7 million kwacha. And a lot of issues have come out pertaining to the CDF. First of all, I just to get the conversation going, I just want to get your perspective over, first of all, about the increase before we get to your analysis based on the CDF implementation.
Yeah, I think many people know about the Constituency Development Fund, and I think it's a very special purpose fund, particularly in terms of trying to bridge development gaps in various constituencies across the country. All of us were looking forward to the presentation of the first budget by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Psokotwane. And I think as he continued going through his presentation, when it came to the CDF, there was an unprecedented announcement, and that was the exponential increase of CDF from 1.6 million to 25.7 million, Patrick, as you already alluded. And I think for almost all of us, we said, oh, wow, this is unprecedented. In the current situation, we all look at that kind of an exponential increase as perhaps one of the most pragmatic pro-poor policy pronouncement that we've seen from the UPND government since coming into office. I want to qualify when I say pro-poor because it means that it is very targeted to the rural communities, it's targeted to the grassroots. Sometimes you want to avoid using the term grassroots, yes, but I think you understand that we are looking at it in terms of its direct link to local level development. So I think it is a big plus, it is unprecedented, it's transformational, and in many instances almost all of us are looking at it and say, what kind of quote-unquote invasion of development are we going to see in the various constituencies across the country? And I must actually also qualify that in the case of Zambia, the landscape, we do have a lot of constituencies that are very rural, and development has eluded them for over a period of time. And I'm sure, speaking as a voter, speaking as a constituent member, I'm looking at this really to be more or less like a very important resource for local development. The biggest question that I've asked myself is it really the panacea?
Yes, that's the this one we're getting to. Yes. So now we get into that same question. How you are responding to it?
My first response, like I mentioned, is that there's quite a lot of expectations, that a lot of the euphoria that it has generated. I'm looking at an average mind who's saying, okay, there's been absence of a road there, we're going to see a road next time. There's been absence of a clinic in that area, we're going to see that. Mentioning this because these have been part and parcel of the more traditional kind of CDF type of projects. Is there an improvement perhaps at a health center in terms of a shelter? What about issues to do with the quality of water to be presented in different areas? So there is quite a lot of euphoria and the like, and I think that is where now we're also asking the question, is this going to be the case? It's not a direct answer, like yes or no. And I think a good number of practitioners are much more anxious to help the government to make sure that it is in a position to deliver. So some of the issues that I ask myself is, how is this going to be undertaken? What are some of the systems that have been put in place? What are some of the practices that have been put in place? What are the kind of attitudes that are also being generated for purposes to achieve that effective delivery? If you look at it, local authorities or local councils are the seat in which CDF has been coordinated. But with also the announcement of this exponential growth, we've seen that the WDCs, which are the sub-district structures, have been made to come a little bit more active. Let's just cast our mind back. The ward development committees are actually within the decentralization policy, and they are considered as the functional lower level coordinating point. But also it means that since the decentralization policy was put in place, and even the implementation plan, it does not mean that all the WDCs have been established. And it doesn't mean that the WDCs have been functional. But with the announcement in October by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, and particularly focusing on the constituency, it meant that in each ward we had to now look at how best can the WDCs be strengthened or established or strengthened where they didn't exist. And I think this is not an easy undertaking. Put in a very good context, in some areas that I've traveled to, the last WDCs that ever existed, and usually then they would also be called area development committees, was during the MMD time. So that sub-district structure has come in and has to immediately run with this program. That is the kind of situation that is obtaining as at present. And your guess is as good as mine in terms of there cannot be any uniformity. Some of them will be undertaking this mandate for the first time, and that also comes with a number of risks. Risks in terms of the practice, risks in terms of the expectations of what they have to do. And remember that part of the mandate that they've been given is to actually receive different kinds of proposals, be in a position to analyze them, being in a position then to forward them to the Constituency Development Fund Committee. So there are quite a number of big load that has been put on their head to be in a position to run with.
Yeah, you've talked about the ward development committees, which are actually activated now. We are seeing them active even in these constituencies. But then the question would be, do they really have the capacity to undertake these works with that huge kind of amount?
Yeah, the tape capacity may mean many things. In my experience, especially around the devolution process, which I've been engaged with over a period of time, it also entails, one, do they appreciate what is it that they are going to be doing, their role and responsibility? And two, in terms of where they've recently been established, what is the kind of interaction or appreciation they're going to have with different key stakeholders? Remember that there's a local authority. Remember there's a councillor. Remember that there's the citizens, okay? Remember that there are also civil society participants. Remember there's also the member of parliament. So all these are different stakeholders that they need to look at. Then there are also certain functionalities. We are expecting the WDCs to be in a position to do some project appraisals. We are expecting them to come up with recommendations of the kind of projects that are being recommended from the different kinds of wards after prioritizing and sending them to the higher level, which is the Constituency Development Committee funds. So the capacity should be seen in terms of, do we really have the people who will be in a position to undertake this? Now, immediate government made a pronouncement. It also tasked that responsibility onto the local authorities, and trying to visualize the instruction that government has made this pronouncement. Chipili district or Chadiza district or Mambwe district or Solwezi or Mofumbwe, can you now get out into the field, get your functionaries to train the different, first establish them where they don't exist, where they exist, go and train them. What has been the kind of training? What has been the basis for conducting the trainings and the like? Did they have the uniform? Where did they receive the resources for them to conduct those trainings? So those are some of the issues that we need to put into perspective. Unfortunately, I think it's also fair to say that the mandate to undertake those trainings was basically given to the local authorities, maybe at a time also when they didn't have adequate resources. What about the personnel? They've got well-trained people, especially in the district, in the different DPs at the local level, but it may not be that they have that kind of uniformity. So it was basically go, establish, train, and let's see what it. We also, I think we're all familiar that the guidelines started following suit. And most recently, in the last 2 weeks, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development has launched those guidelines, the 75-page document. They may have been using the draft, but the more consolidated one was recently launched. So for me, I think it's much more in terms of reducing on assumptions. Did the ward development committees get the right appropriate trainings to enable them to fit into their mandate? If they did for the first phase, well and good, but it does not mean that perhaps there must be a little bit more flexibility in terms of continuous training to be in a position to really give them the necessary skills, experiences, knowledge for them to actually respond to their mandate. One of the understandings that we do have that this is going to be an annual process And it means that lessons from year one, which is 2022, how does it get factored? How do you pick up the lessons for 2023, 24, and moving forward? Yeah, but at the end of it all, this is the structure that is in place, which needs the required skills and experiences to be in a position. Because again, it is the first part in which all these things are being if they recommend us, say, people are saying, let's have a road instead of a clinic, they must be heard. Now, how are they going to galvanize that community mobilization and also be in a position to actually determine those kind of priorities? You do not want to also see a capture amongst what the people that side, so that by the time they're making recommendations, they're making recommendations which are perhaps away from what are the priorities of the people.
Great. Maybe just a reminder to our viewers out there who are watching us from our studios, you can do calling and phoning with the numbers that are scrolling on your screens, so that you can be able to participate as well and to question the guest of today on this platform, Mr. Soko.
Yeah, we are talking the issue of CDF, and Mr. Yeze has explained, the guidelines are out, so you have to familiarize yourself. But issues that have also come out is that persons with disabilities are concerned that they needed a bit of some preferential treatment in terms of if they are to effectively participate into CDF activities. But they say there is no any preferential treatment that has been provided to them based on the guidelines that have been released. Just your take on that, because considering that the CDF is like you indicated, a panacea of almost all of activities in a constituency, and this is quite a huge sum of money. Which would generate activity, especially at community level. And how can people equally position themselves to ensure that they are among the winners in terms of this fund? Because at the end of the day, you cannot just sit and expect that because of the CDF, everything will be in place, even my plight will be safeguarded. But how can citizens themselves be proactively engaged in this activity or intervention of CDF, so that they can be able to contribute or benefit out of it?
In fact, I think it's well put, especially on the last side, in terms of how do they participate, or how are they beneficiaries, and also how do they participate in this. One of the things I'm clear about is that the pronouncement places emphasis in terms of the local level taking active participation. Minister of Local Government and Housing, Honorable Gary Ngombo, I think has been very clear in terms of that would like this to be demand driven. So one would look at it that from a position of influencing for response to projects that are going to deal with social exclusion. The answer is much more in terms of how the WDCs will proactively respond to that in terms of addressing problems perhaps that may be dealing with people who are vulnerable, but also on the other side in terms of their representation, especially in terms of composition. There must be an aspect of voice. Now, because of the lower level at which has been brought, which is the ward and not the constituency, it means that one is looking at it in terms of increasing more and more participation of citizens at that particular level. But maybe I could also put a rider to your question, and this is also in terms of how are priorities going to be determined for development purposes. One of the things that I've been thinking over is that we've had the first response for many people may be to do CDF type, the traditional CDF type of projects. But also at the same time, they need to be thinking a little bit. I was going to avoid using this phrase, thinking outside the box, but we needed to be a little bit more creatively. Yes. I look at one school which covers, it's a secondary school, it's a boarding secondary school where its laboratories are all gone. Okay? And I'm asking myself and saying, what if in this ward people opted that let's go and sink boreholes. I know there may be a challenge of water, okay, but look at it in terms of long term. The quality of education that is coming out from that school is compromised. So can there be a little bit more of creativity in terms of how the CDF can actually be utilized for purposes of meeting those kind of needs? By the time a pupil is coming out from that school, they should be in a position, especially if the laboratory has been worked on, to be in a position to fit in. And right now the country in its priority agendas should be looking at it in terms of promoting science and technology. So can such kind of things be thought about rather than the traditional one in terms of let's go and sink boreholes, let's go and put up a 1x3 classroom block, let us go and put up a matter. I'm not saying these things are not important, but I think it's also good to think, to let those who are going to be doing appraisals on looking at this, to look at it in terms of how can some of the interventions out of this CDF be responsive to certain things beyond what their thinking is just as at present. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, in case you're joining us, we are having our first conversation on the CDF guidelines, and we have in studio Adrian Yezi, a development consultant, who has been able to assist us with the conversation. You too can add your voice in case you want to contribute on this topic of discussion we are having in studio. Well, just now I just want to also pick on your thought regarding the same CDF arrangement. There's the component of politicization, where probably the strategy would be politicize the ward development committees, and so that our people are dominating the committees and ensure that the decisions are only favoring us as a people. And the holding of meetings pertaining to ward development committees, because we hardly see, for instance, if the Minister of Health at the moment is having cholera, administering cholera medication to people, to say come and get cholera medication to prevent yourself from getting the disease. They are going through with megaphones to announce to people, so that people can go to the clinic and get medication. But we don't see that when it comes to development processes, where people are not informed to say, let's meet at the community hall and let's discuss what we want to do for ourselves in this community. But how can we best handle this, especially that we're talking about the issue of participation, like your area alluded to?
Yeah. We can never run away from the fact that any development intervention has got a political side to it. In practical terms, remember that we are coming from a pre-election period. We had elected officials, whether it's at councillor level or member of parliament level or presidential level, putting themselves before the citizens and assuring them or promising them of what needs to happen when they get into office, and see sometimes also the Constituency Development Fund in that light. So for instance, it would be to the advantage of an elected councillor if some of the priorities that they promise people are covered in there, which would be the same with a member of parliament. I will not go up to the level of president, because this is much more at a constituency level. So to a greater extent, one would be expecting that there must be their role, whether directly or indirectly. There's a very big question in terms of the extent to which somebody will be championing a development agenda versus championing or politicizing a process. But also, it also means that we should be anticipating some conflicts coming out from there. Can you imagine a scenario where the councillor priority list is this and something else goes on? There must be a management of that. Similarly with the member of parliament. And I think this is also a function which has to be put in the WDCs very clearly in terms of conflict management, which also has to be put, especially even from the technical side at a local level. And remember that this is also happening in a district. and the jurisdiction of all the development in a particular district is the local authority. So there's a role of the councillors, especially in terms of finally making decisions in terms of, yes, this has been approved, this has been, yeah, and all that. So there must be a real form of management around it, but also in terms of how do you bring up a balance between politicization and also in terms of ensuring that you are advocating, especially on the part of the elected leaders, advocating for the development priorities in a particular area. So I think in that context, the issues of politics will need to be managed in a very smart way, if one puts it that way. And if I could also mention here that I think the local authority will have to play a major role. The technocrats, in terms of the quality of the works that is going to come out working with the WDCs. My experience has been that the biggest big cry may not have the Auditor General's report in front of me. It's not much more to do with the abuse of resources in terms of the financial side, but the quality of the projects that come out of CDF have been of worry. So it is more or less like public resources being misused because of the quality of the product. You get onto the ground, there's a building that has been constructed. It may be a police post, it may be a clinic, it may be a road. A lot of money went into it, but the quality that comes out does not come in to provide the required services. So that already brings in another aspect here in terms of the technical capacities that have to be at the local authority, the strong skills and experiences in monitoring of these projects which have to be at the WDC levels. So there's quite a mix of things that have to be considered in this regard. Just talking about the technical aspects, and I'm not too sure whether this was something that was going to come out, is that we also fully appreciate that most of our local authorities have also had a big challenge in terms of attracting and maintaining well-trained quality staff, skills and experiences, especially those that would help them to deliver. And one of the reasons for that has been the issue of emoluments, the issues of salaries. And it's fair to say that some of the local authorities, even now, will go 3-4 months without paying their staff. So already, even in the context of this, you start asking yourself in terms of what would be their availability, what would be their levels of commitment in terms of supporting this process. Unless those issues are well addressed. We are very aware about many local authorities who had their staff going on go slow so that they make those demands. And I think the ministry, there is a stand to be corrected, is that others were high-ranking officers in the ministry were suggesting that increase in their salaries should be covered under the local government equalization fund. And it was going through my mind, I saying, is this what is the equalization fund supposed to be financing? Yeah, so those are issues also that need to be.
You've talked about conflict management, especially in the political scene. My question would be, what would be the best basis of development in these constituencies and to have the common ground for different interests of players?
Maybe not to be very prescriptive for now. What I'll be looking at is, especially for the first year, year one, which is 2022, to see in terms of how this rolls out. We need to be very open-minded. We need to see in terms of, remember that we're dealing with various anxieties, expectations, okay? So we need to see in terms of how different stakeholders are going to respond to this. So my take for now is that I may not really come up with a very explicit way, but I think we need to recognize that there will be different kinds of interests to be dealt with.
Yeah, your concluding remarks, Mr.
Yazin. Like I said, CDF is a very important resource, especially for local level development. I'm hoping that the effective implementation of the CDF should help in terms of translating in democracy, delivering development. The right to development is a key aspect that we need to further, and there's one way in which we can do it, and through CDF that can be achieved. On the flip side of it all, let us not work on assumptions. Let us be very open-minded that there will be quite a lot of challenges and constraints. Those that we already know, I think let's respond to them. The only sad part of it all is sometimes this system tends to get closed, even when a problem exists. Let's recognize there's a problem that we need to be in a position to address. It's part of risk management.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Yezi, for finding time to be with us in the studio.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming once again.
Well, just now we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back shortly with our second interview with the Democratic Party spokesperson, Mwanawina Kwivisa, rather, as we talk about matters pertaining to politics. Stay tuned.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. You are watching the Camnet Breakfast Wednesday edition, Governance and Policy, and I'm joined by our new guest. We have been having our conversation on CDF guidance. Now I've been joined by the DP spokesperson, Mr. Mwanawina Kwivisa. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning. I feel good to be here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Zambia.
Well, we are going to have a straightforward conversation on governance and politics, to be specific, Mr. Kwivisa. And I want to start with the review of the just ended Kawata by-election on your side as a political party. Did your performance reflect the efforts you had put in, and considering the fact that you were also on this same platform bragging over the possibility of you getting the scope in the election?
Yes.
But are you happy with the outcome of the result?
Okay, I must say that the outcome of the Kabwata by-election, I must quickly mention and thank the Kabwata residents. I must also quickly mention that the ECZ had given us an opportunity after we were actually sidelined, if you remember, in the first run before the pullout of the other candidate. So we came in right at the end. That is what democracy should mean, Zambia, is that we were being sidelined for reasons only known by the Registrar of Societies. But the bigness of ECZ, I must tell you, is what took us to the table. And when you are invited to a table to participate, you participate fully, isn't it? But no matter the hour and no matter the result, we got on that table, we interacted with Kabwata, we have known the problems of Kabwata. And information is power, and we're going to continue. So you don't only say, I will only work only if I get to parliament. Because as a party, we were on the ground. We saw the rhetoric, the stories that were being told, even the CDF, compared to how many schools are in Kabwata, how many clinics are in Kabwata, how many roads are beyond being called roads, the floods in Kabwata. So all those things, sir, is what we come as a party and say, we thank God that we are growing as a party with relevance. Not to So we went on that ballot very confident. And I want to thank the people of Kabwata on behalf of President Harry Kalaba for giving us an opportunity, for allowing us to go into their area, for knowing what they go through, so that as a party we can coin, we can begin to structure ourselves, we can begin to have postmortems that will give results that we want. So I'll tell you that Kabwata itself has told us that there is poverty. Kabwata has told us, you people were on the ground, that look, the apathy you saw is a fatigue of political promises, because people do not eat promises. People need politics of ethics and integrity. You need to have integrity if you are going to serve. So people have been crying on CDF. We are yet to see the integrity on that CDF, because already there is this, you need to belong to a community. What are the roles and the rules of CDFs? How and when should CDF be dispersed? At what point should it reach the minister? At what point should it be approved? At what point should adverts be run on the papers? And who should qualify for that adverts and those projects? At what point? So all this is just rhetoric unless my brother, my sister in Kabwata begins to realize that CDF is making their lives better. That CDF is making education better. Because there is a brother, a sister, the whole school, 100% failure. That should move you, my brother. Where are we going? So the Kabwata elections, thank God, this was the first platform we came to. I want to thank the TV station. I want to thank the people of Kabwata. On behalf of the president, I want to thank God that we can come back and say the result is as was, but we are learning from it. We are taking a journey forward, and we are going to continue interacting and working with the people of Kabwata.
Interesting. Mr. Kwibisa, getting into your political party as the Democratic Party, you, prior to the by-election, you've been facing issues to deal with your deregistration, and you accused, or rather, the issue of ownership in terms of the office bearers prior to the Kabwata by-election. Mr. Kwibisa, are you still facing those fights? Are you still being fought, as you claimed earlier, by the ruling party?
You see, I must mention Zambia. Good morning. This is a breakfast show. A journalist that brought information to us where there were dark corner meetings and phone calls was arrested. What are you doing about it? You are here. Your job is to disseminate, to bring to the fore, to bring into check. That's why you are a fourth estate. You are the mouthpiece, the ears, the eyes for that person there. And you, as media, were the ears and eyes. The audio that went viral, we have not seen the two officials suspended. We only saw the media manager being summoned. You are privy to that. Then we saw the journalist being arrested. And I hope you guys were with that journalist. The DP is with the journalists through and through. So what we are saying, sir, is that there is no equity in the things that are happening. And the Registrar of Society, we are putting it on check. We have written to the Speaker. We have written to the IG. The IG, if the IG does not respond, we are going to the international community. Because once they begin to muzzle you, Sir, it is a beast you will not control.
And how long do we see this? What's
But and to what extent is this affecting your political party? Because at the time you're supposed to be focusing on mobilizing your people, your voters. You are busy also trying to make sure that your office is intact. You are busy trying to attend to these court issues. How is that going to affect you as a political party, especially that time flies?
So we are a people with a purpose. And because you need to understand that when God has put us here, brothers, this is not a mistake. It is in the purpose of God for us to meet. It is in the purpose of God for God to have taken Joseph through what the brothers took him through. It is in the preparation of him not being killed, being sold. That well was placed in a path where the people who do trade pass. And when let's sell him for a cost, it is in the purpose of God that he should have landed himself, isn't it? Where? In Egypt. It is in, and all those persecutions, sir, did they end there? He settled down. It is in the purpose that the lady of the house should have tested him. Do you know what it was preparing him for, brothers? It was preparing him to face the people that sold him and feed them with the Father, if you remember.
Yeah, the Bible
without vengeance. Sir, we are as a party being prepared to serve you. Whatever we are going through, sir, we cannot rush it. And if you hear, there was a journalist, a musician, even Mark II, when Chef whatever is
187.
Yeah, 187. When Chef was young, he was in the background. And the older brother wasn't pushing him to the front. If you've heard his interview, he says, he was saying, I wasn't ready. And as Zambia, we are being, and as Democratic Party, we are being prepared by these persecutions. We are being cooked so that we do not begin to look beautiful than you, the masters. So there are no problems in DP. The problems that were manufactured by the UPND that have not given us the findings on that audio are what you guys should be thinking, what is happening? Do you know who discovered the problem with the Zambia Medical Association?
ZAMSA.
Do you know who? You guys. You are the people that saved people in Kabwe and Kasama. Journalism. So if you go through things like that, what PF was doing to you, if you remember journalists being harassed, it prepared you to say, there is something here. And I know you journalists, the way you are, you fashion and say, can I speak to that issue that is behind the curtain? And are you going to allow democracy to die because UPND wants us to die? Are you going to allow three non-entities to come and tell you that President Harry Karawa, who has earned his accolades through hard work and honesty, is going to be discarded? They can try and discard a man and a vision, but boss, the Joseph will come up.
Our hope with Mr. Kwebi says that while you are being cooked and prepared, you won't be overcooked, because we've seen these other political parties like the mighty movement for multi-party democracy, the National Restoration Party, NARE. They have gone through the process you are going through, Mr. Kwebisa. And for some of them, it has, the ending has not been good. And you as an emerging political party are tipped to be amongst Zambia's major opposition political parties.
Yes.
And seeing such issues.
Yes.
And we understand that there are always sometimes external forces that would want to further affect your operations.
Yeah.
Now if those external forces persist, do you have any plan B of probably even abandoning the DP agenda, or maybe just coming up in another political party? Just to pick your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we do not. I want you to understand that some of us are now becoming archaic. We come from a unique era. I look as handsome as you because I'm taking care of myself. There was only one party participatory democracy. Do you understand it?
Sure.
One party participatory democracy. It took revolutionists to begin to say, no, Your Excellency, the first president, we need another voice. Because the person in Livala, in Kaoma, is not being heard. We need a divergent view so that we see at what angle we can look at this problem. Is the glass half full or half empty? Is the leakage fixable or not? So the examples you've given us is that what you journalists should be doing is to begin to say, we do not want to allow monopoly of ideas and monopoly of speech because God has made us different. And in this preparation, sir, we will not be overcooked. I've told you, God is a God of a purpose. And is a God of a timing. And the DP is poised because of your initiative, your intelligence, your activities, and the prayers of this country to be a voice. You saw that we were even highlighted in the European Union report. And even the European Union highlighted 6 things in there. They even talked about tribalistic leaders. Why in God's name are you going to entertain a tribalist? How, my brothers, my sister? Zambia, in this time and age, quite number governance mambo kuyangasha. That is why we are saying even the promises. Do you know what a promise is? A proclamation. When you buy your iPad and there is a manual, do you know what it begins to tell you? It says, when you do this, it will switch on. When you do this, there will be music. You understand? That's a promise which UPND is failing to fulfill. And it goes on when there is a manual.
Are you considering that it's only been 5 months in office?
So when you buy the iPad today, does it stop working because it is new and you say when you press on, will it go on? When you press volume, will the volume go on? I'm asking you, when you press the light dimension, will it go on, sir?
It will.
So, listen to me. The 5 months in perception.
The time.
Yes, I'm answered that your iPad is 5 months. There are proclamations that are happening that the cost of fees have gone up, sir.
But this iPad
people have died.
Old software that needs to be cleaned up.
Sir, the promises did not tell us about the old software. The promises told you that you have WhatsApp.
In the software, there's debt there, the debt issue. In the software, there's also the debt issue.
Let's come back to
like you guys. I'm just trying to say
let's just attach.
We're at home.
Yes. Let's attach. Aside from the software, we're talking about we've been through a political journey, and these guys are just coming up from a past regime. So there are things that were done from the
that's the old putting in.
Yes, that's what we refer to
in the software.
So we're not buying a new gadget.
Yes,
we're buying a replaced, so to say, gadget, which is having a what?
Probably the press button is not working.
We bought before such gadgets.
So let's stop. So you said this is an old gadget. Yes. When you upload a new software, do you actually know that software also comes with promises? That if you buy the software, isn't it, sir? That you're going to load it onto this machine. And you need to know the problem of that machine before you load it, isn't it? You need to know, does it have enough space and capacity? Am I lying, sir? Is the on button working? Are you saying there was total ignorance about your indebtedness as a country? That is not a secret. Are you saying we did not know that the journalists were being harassed? That is not a secret. Are we saying that the police being used to muzzle Zambians, was that a secret, sir? We knew, and the government knew what it was going through. Sir, today, my brothers, you are a day closer to your death day. Nobody should ever play with your time because of incompetence. The formula and the questions we have asked to Zambia, to you, do you know the conditions of IMF? You're the journalist. Do you know how much it costs to actually get a license for a car? How much increment was done? Do you know that they are poised now to say it's going to be cost effective for ZESCO? That means the green economy agenda will die. That you in Tendere now have to consider how much you are going to get to connect yourself to the grid. Yet you cannot use charcoal. Do you know that there's free education and it came as a pronouncement? It didn't take 5 months. It didn't take 5 months to change the pricing of fuel. It didn't take 5 months for the dollar to reach 19 when you said it would go down. It didn't take 5 months for somebody to take 10 trips and go and launch a book. We as a country have got to be serious. Sir, you only have one country, my brothers. And if you're going to say 5 months is too long, do you know how long we've been independent? Do you know why we even yesterday I heard the Bankers Association chairman coming from a bank. You know what he said? The problem we have with the education is when we get this graduate who has been trained, when we put them in the industry, we have to now train them again. You know that fact. So that's why when you join work, you were given what you call probation. Do you know how long probation is?
3 months or 6 months.
Yes. So why are you not going to call on your rights and your benefits as a nation? Because one, ministers have been getting full salaries, accommodation, 5 months, medicals. Am I lying?
You are all correct.
The police at their house, sir. This harmonious as a country is not going to get us anywhere. We are wealthy. Did you see the report that we are the 4th richest in the world in terms of minerals? Did you see it?
Indeed.
We are rich. But here we are, like the prodigal son. You have to realize that I come from a rich family. Let me take what... And it took seconds for the prodigal son to get up and say, oh, naturally, I squandered my money, isn't it? I'm eating with the pigs. You understand me? So if you are going to accept poverty on this platform, you guys need to have a change of mindset. Because 5 months is too long. No more than 5 months. You are 5 months. You are growing every day, and as a country, we need to reach Botswana and bypass them. Do you know that most of our teachers were actually exported or imported into Botswana? You know that, right?
Sure.
Even our medical practitioners, UTA should have been the biggest hospital. What I'm trying to steer in you as you enter breakfast is that the DP believes in the potential, and this potential, sir, is, you know what potential is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and actualize capability.
Can you imagine? You keep on talking about potential. What is it? What good is it if it's just sitting there? That's what you're saying. 5 solid months. My brothers, 5 solid months. My sisters, many are in 3 months. Am I lying? Why is it that certain people now, their perfume can even they can boast that their perfume can be your wage or can buy your salary? That is a crime. Nobody goes with these things to the grave.
Now, interesting. Now you are bringing me to an issue of corruption. Your president, Mr. Harikalam, left then the Patriotic Front on account that he didn't want to associate himself with corruption, and he wanted to just do things on a different platform. At a different level altogether, which he has been doing in terms of building the Democratic Party. There has been concerns, especially from some quarters of society, that there are some PF officials who want to associate with the Democratic Party, and that's the issue that is also bringing confusion in your political party. How true are those allegations that you are trying to attract more members from the PF as the DP? As you try to solidify your position as a political party?
I think it's a fallacy, and it's malicious, because I belonged to UPND. You understand me? And if somebody from the Patriotic Front who has crimes to answer to, are you and is the law going to allow them to go scot-free? The answer is no. Are you going to say that everybody in UPND, those ministers, none of them were PF? Is that what you're saying? The answer is no. Are you going to say that all PF are corrupt? In your church, in your house? There are people who never benefited. Am I lying? Isn't it? There are people who just love the party. And Harry Kalaba loved the party because you need to go back, a step back, and say, at the time of the forming of the PF, their journey and purpose was to what? Put more money in the
people's pockets.
And it was pro-poor. When they started buying ambulances that were exorbitant, you see what I mean? Believe me, he speaks and he says, I cannot detain my hands, and moves out. So the people that have to come, do you think that, do you know who Jesus came from? Do you know how many projects PF left and have been opened. Do you know the money that was used to pay pensioners was a PF budget, and it was already there and allocated? Are you, no, guys, are you there? So why are you going to say everything PF is evil? It's not right. So you've got to have justice. That if our brothers from the PF are still brothers and they have something to contribute to this country. Israel is a small country, but believe me, they believe in themselves. They believe that they are powerful. The UPND have accepted, just imagine the youths in Lusaka rejected someone who had left UPND and wanted to join. You are a journalist, you tell me. And the UPND in Lusaka rejected that person, isn't it? There was no police. The UPND now, the person who left on the Copper Belt and was campaigning for who? Edgar Lungu. When she announced that she was coming, the youth said, we don't want her. They had the police protection, abuse of authority. Tracks. The Commission of Copper Belt has got to answer why our tax. When you know, Bwana, you have to lock you with your grille doors. You understand the crime you're going through. But just for that individual on the Copper Belt, sadly, you had to protect. I hope you know that story.
Exactly.
Just for that person to come and join UPND, does that not speak volumes for UPND? Even for the people that are saying President Harry Kalaba wants to work with the PF. He is a Christian, for crying out loud. He cannot chase anybody. What he hates is not the person, but the acts, isn't it? The act. Don't hate the person. Everyone can change. If they come into a house and it's clean, the way your studios are, guess what? I will remove my shoes from there because I will see that it is arranged properly, isn't it? So if they come into our house, where Harry Kalaba is president, or in any other house, they will get to realize that this is a house of order. And then we will not quickly say, no, because you have money. No. We have the people to save. We have employment. Do you know that 75% are youths, unemployed? Unemployed. Here we are blessed. Blessed to be in these seats, but undervalued. Do you know what I mean, undervalued? Because probably we can't even afford to bury ourselves.
Well, you are joined in our studios here with the spokesperson for DP, Mwanawina Kwevisa, and you can add your comment to this topic where we're just evaluating and also reviewing the performance from the Kobata by-election by the DP and also seeing the way forward from the DP party. And Mr. Kwevisa, I feel from your response that you are actually giving the benefit of the doubt to these people who are about to join, so to say, to join your party, believing that they can change when they see things are done differently in your party. So
just
then,
before that, we take this.
let's just
take this call.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Good morning.
Yes.
Yes, your names and where you're calling us from, sir.
Yeah,
just speak up here. We can't get you clearly.
I'm saying my name.
You can go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, I want to over the house there, you know, in there, but embrace the
Okay, so basically the line is very bad there. So Mr. Shimba, you were asking Mr. Kwisa.
Yes, from the way it's coming out, is believing that these people can actually change while they join the political party. But then you've been citing the Bible so often. There's also a portion where it says bad morals corrupt good morals. You understand? So how do we see these people change really when they have these attached stories to them?
Sir, I think the stories that are attached to the individuals, like I said, they have to answer for them. And we are not going to entertain or be the judge for somebody that has crimes. Here it is. We do not subscribe to Chilekwa's treatment. But we are saying, if killed somebody, he has to answer. That is not, if a member, if a Rosy store, arrest them. We saw how much money they were putting on beds. Arrest them. You understand me?
Mm.
We have told you, you have confirmed, the president left. How many people walk away from the dining table when you're just now eating turkeys?
There are few.
There are very few. It tells you that even when they come, and if they want to come with their bad morals, it is what that saying is saying, they will become what? A round peg in a square. You know what a round peg is? Then you put a square, it comes off, it looks off, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes. So, I'll tell you that when Jesus...
you are also telling us that it is going to be the opposite, that good morals will overtake the bad morals.
It will. Do you know what we are doing here?
Mm-hmm.
We are sacrificing. We are on the verge of the state fighting us. We are talking for you that will not have electricity. Your uncle will not have electricity. Your toll fees to travel, that means your bus fare will go up. I'm not talking about fuel. Your bus fare will go up.
Just hold on to that thought, Mr. Let's just take a call. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, you are through to Camnet Breakfast. May we have your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is I'm calling you from Sweden.
Soezi. Okay, you can go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Good morning, my brother from GP. I can hardly hear you. How are you? Okay. I just wanted to help you. My brother, right now when you look at the political scenario in this country, there is no alternative for opposition right now. The only opposition we are relying on is the DP. And I can assure you, the path that the DP is taking, if they continue like this, it will be just like these other parties which go into the ocean where they don't inform government.
Which path to be specific?
From Mr. Hagalinde, the president. He has been consistent and he has been persistent. Okay, let that be your language in DP. Otherwise, I can assure you, even me who is called, I know I'm a UPSC member, but the other party that I saw to say, in case UPSC messes up, where I can turn now and try to help with Mr. Kalama. But now, look at what started happening. You started bringing the people from UPS, number one. Everyone who associates himself with UPS member here, especially this time, just know that you are messed up. I'll give you a simple example for the Kawata by-election. Do you know that this was man, Mr. Temple? Shows the but I don't know what his name is, Mr. Temple or whatever, what is to
Clement Temple.
Had he gone the independent way, he would have fixed that seat. But he made a mistake of associating himself with the corrupt. What happened? Okay, so he's now gone politically, he's firing that man. So the only thing you can do is, if you want to get relevant in terms of politics, my brother, I'm advising you, do not associate yourself with all the PH members, especially the prominent ones who are being followed, who are making events, those big ministers, the PHA. If you want to get PH members, that's what I remember like me. Don't get those who have been associated with corruption.
Okay.
You are killing the DP party.
Yeah.
That's what I can assure you. Don't make that mistake.
Well, thank you very much for your contributions, sir. They are from Solwezi. We are glad that always he is listening and watching Camnet TV. Mr. Kwebisa, important questions for you there. He's just advising you. And he says, not get prominent members, get us. And he's a Libyan member, but he sees the potential.
I'm telling you, today is a blessed day. I can only say the advice has been heard and will be heeded too. And because of the care, I am moved. And sir, we will work according to you, because you are a voter, you are a Zambian, and you want the country to move forward. And as DP, we will listen to you. That's what our job is, to listen and to work.
Then talking about the fight against corruption, it's among topical issues in the country at the moment as the Anti-Corruption Commission continues to summon especially those who served in the previous administration. Mr. Kwebisa, we want to get your perspective regarding how you think the corruption fight must be approached, considering the fact that in the past we had the situation where when a political party is in government, in office, these enforcement agencies hardly see the wrongs they commit. Now we have the United Party for National Development in office. How should we fight corruption? Do we have to also wait until they are no longer serving to fight corruption?
Sadly, it's a government of speeches for speeches by the speech giver. I want to say that we have issues that the public has raised on fertilizer, on people that are aligned to government. Nothing has happened. We have had the president himself proclaiming that they are being taught corruption, remember? And he says he knows, remember? Have they been persecuted? Have they been suspended? Have they been arrested? No. We have had corrupt leaders talking about killing in democracy and all that. Have they been prosecuted? No. We have had a lot of talk than action. So this corrupt issue should come from him. He should demonstrate firmness. That's all. You can tell if you are a parent, do not begin to show the neighbor's child. Talk to your child. And the UPND are failing us now. Lamentably failing us. Has he fired anyone? No. He has people who are going as the director of communication that cannot explain portfolios of special duties. That is a failure. We have had a lot of cases where we are saying a minister goes into the public and says we are broke. That is not correct. So corruption should start from him as he fights those that we are seeing. We want to see him say, you know, some of you people were in Kaunda, you know people were fired. For even Mwanawasa, he was fair, you know it. Mwanawasa would fire you without an apology. Mwanawasa said there's no Kadaism. Do you know what he did? He stopped cadres from singing for him at the airport, if you remember. He asked them, why are you here? Who is selling? Who is in the market? You understand me? Because this Kadaism and singing does not bring food on the table. President Hakainde Hichilema goes with ZNBC live as he's landing. For less than 5 minutes, landing from the airport. Live broadcast. You are the experts. How long does it cost to get that crew? That is what we're saying. Corruption is not only about stealing, it's about misuse of resources. And we've told the President Hakainde Hichilema, you are entitled to that jet. You are our head of state. Go safely, because we want to see all your promises, which you are failing to fulfill, come true. Therefore, the fight against corruption is in futility. The right thing that he has done is appoint Madam Chilo. That's a woman I know fought battles. Do you know she was so alone in the other regime? I hope you know. They went for her. So have we seen any indication of corruption being fought? No, sir. You have arrested journalists. You have said you are going to be a government of laws. You arrest, you detain without charges for a long time. Those are things that you need to start curbing. So corruption, sir, is a talk and all talk. Because already, I'll tell you something that you need to investigate. That the forest and the green whatever minister feels is untouchable. And he was stopping the lands minister from going to a constituency or stopping people from doing illegal mining there. He says you can't go there if I'm not there. Is that not corruption? What kind of legislation, what kind of MP can stand for the illegalities. That is corruption. Corruption is when you are saying, can the UPND cadres that suffered it now, are they the only ones who voted? Is it their own countries? Is that not what PF did? That's corruption. Sir, you need a leader like Jesus. Jesus, sir, after feeding people, they started coming in. Afterward, you know what he said? He said, why are you following me? You should read your Bible. That means that Bible has got everything. Every story you want to see. He turned and said, why are you following me? Imagine you are a politician. Then, hey, DP, he stops and said, because there will some buzz and go, why are you following me? Everyone has got to know who they are, where they are going, where they are from, what they are doing, isn't it? And then they were quiet. He said, is it not because he didn't even answer, he didn't give them a chance. First, I want to finish. Then, bam! He says, it's because you came for food. That is a man that is honest. President Hakainde Hichilema has been talking the talk. You are the controlling officers. What controlling officers? When fertilizer, we don't know how it was bought. When oil is not known. You should call me for a long time. We need to start breaking down all these things.
Oh yeah, indeed.
And you can wind up our conversation, Mr. Kwebisa.
And as you wind up, going forward, how do you expect you providing the checks and balances of the political party really?
I want
make
to,
it short, please.
I want to invite Zambians that the checks and balances are ours. We are the ones that get on buses. We are the ones that pay the high fees toll gates that are coming. We are the ones that get licenses. We are the ones that have brothers. By the way, I lost a cousin on the accident in Camnet.
Oh, sad.
And up to today, we don't know what is going to happen, whether there will be compensation because of that truck driver. Remember what happened. So those are issues that we should be talking about. And as Zambia, DP, myself, yourselves, we're going to check this government. We're going to check them to an extent where after 1 year, we will know they are going on. We even warn them that even if you have the perfume, we will arrest you. Zambians will arrest you. So I want to just say, this country is blessed. There are people praying, and if whatever you do in the dark will be exposed, because this country, sir, is a Christian nation and is going to be a beacon for all of us. So I love this country. Please call me again. We talk about Christian morals, leadership, what it means. That's what we want to do so that our young ones know what we are going through.
Indeed, we'll do just that. Mr. Soko, please.
Interesting. Well, we've come at that time now when we have to say our bye-byes to our dear viewers. We appreciate those who call into the program, those who managed to sit down and watch, those who managed to follow on Facebook page. And we are going to come with another episode of the Camnet Breakfast Thursday edition as of tomorrow. I've been Patrick Soko and Alex Chishimba. And remember to always keep it Camnet. As you already know, Camnet TV is not just another channel. Stay tuned.